Good afternoon and welcome to TalkSports, our weekend program, the Saturday Sports Special. Pleasant good afternoon to you and good afternoon wherever you are looking at our program. And this weekend, it's an open discussion. We have quite a bit to talk about. Obviously, piggybacking on what Dr. Sean Lambert spoke about last week in the program. We didn't have much of an interaction with the public after Sean's discussion. Don't like to say interview per se, but quite a bit revealed by Sean, who was a bit conservative at the start, reserved at the start, but then started opening up and said a lot of things that may be a bit uncomfortable for others. Nevertheless, Sean, that's Dr. Lambert, as we would say, no doubt provided quite a bit for us. And myself, along with my usual suspect, that's Rudy and Sylvan in Toronto, will be looking at some of that. No doubt, Rudy and will be giving me some of his views on some of those things. Rudin is on, but you just have to get this name up properly. I'm laughing because some folks don't know what I'm saying, but Rudin will be with us in a moment, right? Yeah, so as I was saying, and there's so many things that we need to talk about. By the way, folks, the whole issue of the national sports policy ongoing, okay? Various consultations and things like that. So they have started, and soon you'll be hearing quite a bit about the consultations in your area. So you look forward to that, no doubt. And let me see what again. Oh, there is football. There is cricket. We'll have some information on cricket. I think Grenada should be playing, that's the Spice Boys, should be playing the Vincy Heat, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, in a historic game in Carriacou this weekend. I think it's 4 o'clock on Saturday, that's today. They should be playing in an international friendly. And then, there's also some information regarding cricket that I will want to share with you. I think the president sent some information. I'll have to just get it on. But in a moment, let me see if Rudian is with us. Rudian, good afternoon to you as per usual. Once your audio is on, we should be able to hear from you. Good afternoon.
Hey, how you doing, man? Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you. It seems as if you probably play with that new gadget.
I'm using an Apple tablet and I'm a Samsung guy, so I have to kind of dabble with it a little bit. I want
yeah,
to not
because
skip it up.
because I think you may have to do some dabbling because the audio is a bit disjointed for one. The audio is a
Then
bit this. Yeah, the
then
audio is
we'll just switch over and just go
all
on
right.
my
So yeah, so
so
probably
now
you'll
we'll be
make the
anyone.
switch. Yeah. So he'll make the switch, and once he makes the switch, we will get going. I'm not an Apple guy either. I'm not I'm not an Apple guy. So once Rudian gets it settled, fixed and thing, I think he is back. Let me see if now yeah.
Yes,
Rudian,
you can hear me
yeah.
now.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
It's
It's
a big
clear.
difference with the
Yeah,
Apple and the
and
Samsung. I'm a
yeah.
Samsung guy.
Well, yeah. Let's say Android for now because yeah, I'm an Android. I'm an Android guy as well. Nothing against the Apple folks,
The
but
Apple, yeah.
yeah, it's just that I think I'm more familiar with the Android settings and
Oh, most
everything.
definitely, most
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
There'll be those who, on the other hand, may be telling you that, hey, guy, it's because you haven't got the hang of Apple. That's why it's
Of
like
course, they'll say that, but
that. Yeah. But
yeah,
nice seeing you once again,
it's
having
good to
you.
see you.
Right. And quite a bit to talk about. Not many times we get to discuss some of those topics that we want to talk about.
Yeah.
I myself is playing with a little gadget there, so if you see some in between, yeah. But quite important, Rudian, is that the discussion, as I indicated with folks, the discussion with our friend Dr. Sean Lambert last weekend, startling indeed. What 20 plus years, Sean is out of track and field, out of competition, and some of the things he raised, some of the things he discussed are even present today, 20 years later.
Yeah, and it's still going. It's the same concept, nothing changed. So we definitely looking to discuss that a little bit.
Right. Yeah, that certainly. And I indicated in the starting the national sports policy. They're planning some consultations in terms of getting things going. Even though we discussed it already, and there are indications that they are on the move to start implementing. I think the consensus was to have some discussions, further discussions, because since it was enacted, more than a decade ago, a lot of things have changed. So there will be the need to do some updating and things like that. And in that context, they are planning a series of consultations, including one for the diaspora. So folks in the diaspora, you stay tuned. I think it may be in the month of October. So stay tuned, because we'll have a date and time for a consultation regarding the national sports policy. So those of you in the diaspora who have interest will have an opportunity to make an input into the whole consultative process. It's sort of a first time in terms of that. When the initial discussion regarding, or consultations rather, with the previous one, I actually journeyed to Grenada. I left New York and I went to Grenada to participate in those consultations. Now with technology, there's no need for that. You can stay in the comfort of your home,
Yeah.
in a park, in a parking lot, wherever, and participate and make a contribution. And that's really good to know that there is that opportunity, because as we have been engaging over the past few weeks through our programs, that there a lot of folks in the diaspora who are willing to make a contribution, willing to give an input, into the governance of sports in Grenada. Not that what they say must go, but at least you get the opportunity to express an opinion and to provide some, insights, and see how it can fit. Because I'm certain that most of us who have sports development at heart for Grenada, we are in the same, we are on the same page. So we may have some different in terms of how things can be done, but in the final analysis, is what we need is a consensus on what it means good for Grenada. So I'm looking forward to your participation as well, Rudy. And it's something you're
Oh,
looking
no, most
forward to?
definitely. As involving the people is very important,
Mhm.
because in the end, it's for the people. So it's
Mhm.
always important to involve the people in what's going on and take the input. And I'm hoping that the input can help develop the sports policy. So which is a really good thing. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Okay, well, nice hearing that, and certainly something that we can talk about in the future. But going back to the whole issue with Mr. Lambert's, Dr. Lambert's, may I say, um, process, um, what was your main takeaway, the major takeaway coming out from Dr. Lambert's contribution on last Saturday?
Well, we kind of break him down, let him break his silence a little bit. And I know he had lots more, but the one takeaway that I get is that the thing that happened 20 plus years ago, and the behavior of the administration and how they see their athletes, is the same thing happening 20 plus years later. And that is shocking. to see that the support is not there. And we can go into so much other details where the support was there. The support was sort of there under specific names and so forth. We don't need to go into that. But that athlete itself wasn't getting the benefit of it to further their career. And we see the same thing happening today. And my fear is that we have lost so many great athletes over the past 5-6 years due to the strikes in Grenada, and then the pandemic coming in, where kids never get to compete in track and field, as we talk about track and field. So a lot of these athletes just kind of wash away. And so here we are today, and I haven't seen any change, any significant change to develop the sports in Grenada. Now I'm talking about the Caribbean. In Grenada, we see soccer is doing well, yes, or football, I may put it, is doing very good. But that's it. We don't see nothing else. We have one or two athletes on the world stage. Victor just finished up breaking the national record. That's very good. It's good. That's the way you have to end the season, you know, to show that your training is improving. But at the same time, it's the same group of people we see year after year after year after year after year, because they don't have to depend on Grenada based on their status and their position right now. So those who have to depend on Grenada just get washed away because the administration or the system, as we are constantly use, is not beneficial to them. So it's hurt. It's sad to see that, and that's really one thing I would like to see fixed.
Right.
Yeah, we talk about the policy. Go ahead.
I wanted to just hold on to the policy because I want to just bring piece of what Sean, I had it in segments, but to sort of summarize what you basically were saying from Sean's program last week. So if
the most common question I get, and I don't have all the time, I have probably inconsistent answers with it because sometimes I don't even know why myself. But the reality is when I completed my time at university, I had my degree, and I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do towards the end. So it was either going to med school or staying on track, as you know, Bascom. Now, what happened is that at the time there wasn't much. I didn't have a professional offer. I had agents come up to me, but there wasn't anything. I would have to basically support myself for the first year of pursuing track and field, right? So my university scholarship was going to support me for a further 6 months. I had a job, so I was working a job, and I would essentially have to do. It essentially came to a funding issue. So there was contact made between myself and the authorities at home. There wasn't any response from the authorities. And I think over time, I felt a bit disincentivized myself to continue because I kind of wanted to move on with my life. And I didn't want to feel that I was going to invest in something which wasn't giving me as much return as I was hoping to get. Is probably the best way I could put it. And I think at some point, I felt as if I lost a bit of confidence in myself because I wanted to do more, I wanted to do better, and I didn't see a way to do it, and I didn't feel like I had the support. So I did what I knew how to do best, and there was an opportunity for me to enter into med school and study medicine. I said, fine. Some people work their entire lives into trying to become a doctor. I didn't really spend that much time and effort into it, and it came, and then I said, I might as well do it. So it was something I do reflect on regularly, but it's not something I dwell on, and it's not something I have any kind of whole feelings towards. But it is a thing that I think about because I did that. I made that decision at 22, and I thought at the time I was old. I kind of felt like I was old and time was going, and I wasn't doing anything with my life. When I realized some people only started running at 22. If you look at guys like Asafa Powell, they only started picking up their spikes later on in life. So I think that's essentially what happened in a nutshell. There's a lot more to it, but I don't really want to go into the intricacies and the details of what happened there. But in a nutshell, to summarize everything, I think that's what it was.
But how do you think in going forward should be the approach in addressing some of the fundamental issues we have?
Michael, I tried to get involved in that. I made an approach, and that approach was basically given the same response as when I left university and asked for support. There was no response, right?
Yeah.
The powers that be, let me put plain talk, bad manners. The powers that be are very selective on how they want to do things, and they essentially pick and choose who they would like to listen to. And it's obvious that the people that are guiding, the people that they're listening to, have not had any tremendous impact. I mean, what Rudian has said is just, I can't summarize that any better. I mean, I really can't. I mean, what he has said is worth everything in the last 2 decades of track and field, at least 3 decades of track and field in Grenada, probably perhaps even sport. I can't put that any more eloquently. But what I can say, the only thing that needs to be done is that people like me need to get involved. People like me try to get involved and then we get rejected. We just need a way into this organization, and we just need a way to make the changes, because the body itself is not governed by any powers that be in Grenada. The body itself, I think, is a non-statutory body, and they're answerable to themselves.
Yeah.
And so how do you change a body that's answerable to itself? The only way you can really do it is by getting in there. And even that could be quite difficult. I mean, if you look at the faces that are there now, or the faces that have been there from since, I was a child. And we're talking about less than 10 years old.
Yeah.
So when you have that mindset where people feel that they're entitled to be in a position for life, for as long as they feel, it is a bad thing. Because what we do know about life is that it tends to change, right? So people like me can bring experience to a certain point, but then people like Kirani will at some point, people like Nazio John will at some point, and that's how sport evolves. Sport is not a thing that should stagnate. Nothing in life should be left to stagnate. Nobody should be allowed to hold the hems of anything for an extended period of time.
Yeah. So as you see, and you made a reference to a point you were making there. So I thought that when he started off, as we said, he was a bit conservative. He was a bit reserved for some reason or the other. And then he's like, hey, guys, let me stop, pussyfooting there. Let me get serious and be, pragmatic, And he was just like, hey, let me take this off. And instead of let's say the Dr. Sean Lambert, he was Sean Lambert, and he said it as it is. But it's quite interesting because, as he said, when he was around 20 plus years ago, the people who were there are the same people who are there, and it says a lot about sports, the direction in sports, and as we discussed previously, Ruden, it's not that you want everyone to take a back seat. There comes a time when you have to say, well, I've done my part, I'm willing to hand over. But the handing over don't necessarily mean that you're out of it, you have exited. You understand? You can still be around and providing advice and guidance, etc., because of the experience, okay?
Yeah.
And things like that. But I think I understand, and likewise you understood, because you said it in at the wrap up last week before you left, that there needs to be a change.
Yeah.
There needs to be a new direction for sports, because
And
it's the same people doing the same thing over and over and over.
And where I was going when I talk about the policy, we cannot only change the policy, we gotta change the people too. Some of the people that is there, the policy, they gotta be on a two-way thing. The policy also have to change with people. There should be timeline for people in position. There should be all these things, and we have to have those things. Listen, we are not here to knock anybody down.
Yeah.
If a person is doing a job, they could be there for 50 years, but as long as the intention that they are doing is benefiting the athletes or the Grenadian people, stay till a million years.
Well,
I don't have a problem. But if
yeah.
you are there and there is nothing
Mhm.
happening, there's no improvement, there's nothing going on, it is time for you to leave.
Well, it's interesting too because, as we say, if you developing or implementing a policy or policies, what sort of confidence you have in the same people who have been there for 20, 25 years,
Yeah.
being able to implement your policy? How do they see that policy in terms of a new direction for sports? And again, and we are saying that if they start thinking outside of the box,
Mm-hmm.
I believe we can do much more than we are doing.
I mean,
Just think outside of the box.
and just think, and that's what I'm saying. And it's not only that too. If you are doing the same thing with the same mindset, because you feel that I'm keeping a budget, or I'm not spending that budget, or I'm balancing on the budget. For example, yesterday when I listened to the news and they're talking about there is like something like how much $1 billion that wasn't spent here in Ontario, and our healthcare system been crying out, where people have been crying out for stuff, and your budget has 1 point something billion dollars that should have spent it just sitting there. And I'm just saying, it's you have to spend. If you go over the budget, I get it, but you cannot come and say, well, here I didn't spend all of it, I made a profit, or I didn't spend all of it. This is no. You have to. The budget is there to spend. The money is there to spend. You have $100 to spend in 6 months. It has to be spent in 6 months. That's the whole idea of it. So it's just that we have to know certain things, and the knowledge is very important, because if you're not key on what's happening in the world, track and field, Rojas, the world triple jump record holder for female from Venezuela.
From Venezuela, yeah.
She could not go to the world championship in long jump, because when she qualified, she used a different spikes. The knowledge that if you don't know that, because the triple jump spikes and the long jump spikes, there's a thickness in it. Mm-hmm. So it's a 5 centimeters or 5 difference for the long jump and the triple jump.
Centimeters, yeah.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Long jump and triple jump. They say, yes, you can hold the Venezuela record with it, but you cannot come into the world championship with that jump. How many? I just found that out. Not now, but I found that out when it happened, because I figured you use the spikes. Well, using the spikes to jump in. And if the people who are there is not willing to educate themselves to know things are changing daily, rules are changing daily, things are happening daily. Like even right now, do we have a doping policy in Grenada for sports?
I think we do. I think we do.
Yeah, yes, I mean, do we hear about it? Do we know athletes get tested? A lot of these things and then it start to be put out in the public, because what happened to us, we are here and we are speculating and we are saying these things, and sometimes it might be false, sometimes we might be right on the nose with it, but they have to come out and speak. Just like the Prime Minister, he have to come out and speak of what's going on, what's happening in the country, where the budget is at. Every department should be doing the exact same thing. Here's where we are. Here's where we're gonna go. Here's what's gonna happen. Yeah, sometimes Grenada send a team somewhere, we don't know who they are in track and field. We don't even know who they are until we see a Grenadian person shows up. We don't know, because why? They don't have the mindset that they have is the same as when it was in the 60s and when in the 70s. There are people there who should be go. And to me, Conrad should know better. And I'm not calling out names, I'm just saying, you've been there for so long. You are knowledgeable. You know you can do these things to them. Let us see a change with your position now that is higher from there before, because you know how to come in and make that change. We have people who've been there before who have done a lot of good and a lot of bad, but they are still in position. People who have done bad stuff, still in the position, still there, haven't left. They get caught in doing some things and they're still in the job. Which I don't get that. Which mind blowing, So I'm just saying, for change to come, we have to change people, and we need people under him, people who is in power that can go in and say it's time for you to leave.
Right,
because it's not a friend thing. It's not a friend thing. It's time for you to leave. So that's what I'm looking for to see for what's happening moving forward. It's time for them to step up, put on the big boy pants, and say it's time for you to step down. And let us go there and let us go through the process and find the right candidates to put them in the position. And if they're not working, you get rid of them. You bring in other candidates because it is for the Grenada first. Grenada first. And who is Grenada? The people. Period.
Right. We'll come back a little more on that and what Sean discussed. Just to let you know that what I refer to from the Grenada Cricket Association, they have selected a team to represent Grenada for the Windward Islands Super 50 Championship, actually being staged in Grenada. It says that according to the release, the Grenada Cricket Association announced a 13-man squad to participate in the Windward Islands Super 50 Championship from September 29th to October 3 in Grenada. There are 3 newcomers to the squad at the Windward senior level in batsmen Shondell Regis and Darren Ned, along with fast bowler Nicholas Redhead. All 3 represented Grenada on a historic tour to the United Kingdom in July-August of this year. The tournament bowls off, as indicated, on the 29th of September, which is actually next Thursday. And with Grenada taking on St. Lucia at Progress Park in St. Andrew, while St. Vincent and the Grenadines, they play Dominica at Lassages in St. David. Matches are of 50 overs per side and will start at 9:30 in the morning. So the full Grenada squad is Roland Cato is the captain. Johan Jeremiah is the vice captain. Shondell Regis, Samuel Charles, Keon George, Darren Ned, Dennis Smith, Ryan John, Daryl Cyrus, Dennis George, Josh Thomas, Nicholas Redhead, and Shaman Lewis. The management team, the team will be managed by Randall Batiste. The head coach is Ricky Williams, and the assistant coach is Devon Smith. So as we see, Devon is really gravitating towards the coaching role, as indicated. When it comes to the limited overs, he is in the coaching role, and the longer version, the 40, I think he is as a player. I'm not sure whether he has really indicated, well, no, I shouldn't say I'm not sure. He has indicated that, and I think they had a sort of goodbye to Devon at the Windward's level, but I think at the national level, we must find a way to say thank you, Devon, for your service to cricket over the years as a player. He has represented the country well over the years, disciplined player, despite the challenges he faced over the years on and off West Indies team, whether he should have been selected, whether he was not selected, all these sort of things. As they said, the musical chairs, whether, and things like that. So he stayed focused, and I think we must find a way to say thank you to Devon Smith. People like Devon and Andre Fletcher and those guys, when they decided to call it quit, we must find some way to say thanks to those guys for their services to Grenada and to Windward and West Indies cricket. Okay, yeah, Windward. Other countries find, they find the time to do something, but I find sometimes in Grenada we just let our sportsmen and sportswomen wither away, and sometimes they leave in anguish, and disappointed in how they're treated. And we need to do a little better. We need to do better, okay? And I'm hoping that when people like Rudian and them participate in the consultation on the sports policy, these are the sort of things they will speak about, hoping that there's something included. But we have to start talking about what we would like to see. Again, not everything may be able to be adopted. They may have some already. They may have some that they may have to tweak a bit. And then again, we have to look in the context too of the finances and all these sort of things, But then there's always the argument that when you hear so much of money being bantered around in sports in Grenada, sometimes you ask yourself, what's
Yep.
happening?
What's happening?
Yeah, what's happening, and things like that. But good to see. So, folks, if you just again remember that there is cricket in Grenada. That's limited overs cricket in Grenada starting on Thursday. That's next Thursday, and the opening game will see Grenada versus St. Lucia. Is it? Yeah, Grenada taking on St. Lucia at Progress Park, and over at Lassages, it's St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Dominica. So really hoping that you folks would go out and support. Rudian?
Yeah, most definitely. It's always good when we see our team get involved. Like I said, over the past few years, we had nothing. So now is the time to go there and support. Just cricket. It doesn't necessarily be only Grenada, just cricket. Just go to the different venues and support. Just go there and support.
Yeah. So that's quite a bit for for that. There's another thing that I wanted us to just speak about, Rudy, and it has to do with the whole issue of fundraising. And I want to talk about it in two areas. National associations looking at fundraising efforts. And I say that because outside of probably the Grenada Football Association, which has a secretariat, they have a home for football, as we'll say, paid staff, and it's probably the only sporting association in Grenada with that sort of structure in terms of a paid staff and whatever. And I must give credit to previous administrators of football in Grenada for seeing that and continuing that effort. Okay, so they will have office attendant, they have a secretary, they have coaches that work within the association, a paid general secretary, you have a driver, you have various aspects of that within the Grenada Football Association. There isn't any other sporting association outside of football with that sort of structure. Cricket has, I think, and it may have been periodically where they have a secretary, and it's something that, through the Grenada Cricket Association and the West Indies Cricket Board or the Windward Islands Cricket Board, Windward Islands Cricket Board of Control or Windward Islands Cricket Board, yeah. But whether it's boxing, athletics or whoever, we don't see that. Is it the time that an association like, for example, athletics, where our world champions, our Olympic champion, etc., all come from athletics, and there isn't a functioning secretariat? When you talk about sports internationally, and when you reflect on Grenada's progress in sports internationally, the first thing that comes to mind is track and field.
Yeah.
The accomplishments of our track and field athletes, whether it is Akirani James, Aline Francisque, Anderson Peters, Lyndon Victor, for example, Lyndon Victor, back-to-back champion, Commonwealth Games, decathlon. Anderson Peters, back-to-back world champion, in javelin. Kirani James, multi-medalist. He has had medals in every
category, yeah.
Every category, and
every single category.
Well, and not just every single category, but when we look at whether it's Olympic, Commonwealth Games, I think the only one he hasn't had a medal is the Pan Am Games. But he has had medals in Pan Am Junior, for example, but the Pan Am Games, right? Whether it's Commonwealth Games, all these sort of things, right? And even from the youth, Carifta Games, CAC, all these sort of things.
And in the same event.
In the same event. And isn't it that our Athletics Association can see that as an opportunity where we can capitalize, we can monetize, and raise revenue for
Yeah,
sports development through memorabilia, for example. So,
exactly.
what
Exactly.
about after the um, World Championships? We had memorabilia, whether it's T-shirts or mugs
Yep.
or pens or whatever, of Kirani James and Anderson
Anderson
Peters.
Peters. Yep.
What's about after the Commonwealth Games? Memorabilia on the success of
Yep. Lyndon.
Lyndon Victor,
Yep.
etc. The Athletics Association, they need people who can think outside of the box and think about ways of where they can raise revenue. And you can do that, and I'm certain, in consultation with the individual athletes. And, whether it's Tim Kurani, James, Anderson Peters, whatever, they are national athletes.
Yep.
Okay? And I don't see no reason why they cannot do those things than just laying claim that we do not have money. And listen, as I told you, Rudian, within 24 hours of the World Athletics putting up their shop on the World Championships, Oregon, with T-shirts and blah, 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 and things like that.
Sold out.
There were products that were sold out because
Yeah.
high in demand. And I'm certain with all the fervor and patriotism from Grenadians, they will want to support.
Yeah.
Okay? Look when our and you can do those things when the iron is hot.
Yeah.
So after Lyndon Victor's success at the Commonwealth Games, everybody
have that out right away.
We should have that. After Anderson Peters' success and Kirani James' success at work, we should have that. Everyone
and it's only that too. You don't even need to go. You don't even need to. Sometimes I know the online stuff could be a little challenging. You don't even need to do that. Here in I'm pretty sure in Grenada, in England, in the United States, there's an embassy. It could be sold right out of the embassies.
Yeah. So
right out of the embassies.
Right. And it's all about thinking outside the box, networking. So you say, okay, in New York, we can organize with the consulate or the embassy, whatever. In Toronto, the same thing.
Same thing.
If someone needs, if they're from Toronto or from Canada, then the Toronto, office deals with that. If it's the United States, the New York office deals with that. So when it comes to even shipping, and even if you put a $5 or $10 extra for shipping,
that's nothing. That's nothing for us.
That's what I'm saying. And then the association can deal.
We don't. Just before I go back to the answer, and sometimes I don't. I always bring it up because it's my athletes that I coach is from St. Vincent. She's on the St. Vincent national team. She represented St. Vincent in 3 international games. Before I get in there, I had friends from St. Vincent, and I made a phone call and said, I need to get in track with Athletics St. Vincent. And right away, she said, I know someone. And she made a call. Within half an hour, I had a telephone number. And I only say that because when we say that, we always look at other countries and what they're doing. Yeah, they have things in place. It is embarrassing to know that if we have an athlete whose parents is Grenadian and they want to get involved in track and field, who are they calling? Because we don't have an office, we don't have a secretary to call, and that's not even public. It's not out there, and that's, to me, is embarrassing. And that have to change for who we are right now in track and field, because our name is out there. We are in the World Championship. We were 13 in the world, or 26, one of those two. Besides Jamaica, we was the second best in bringing medals home. And the type of medals, we had a gold and a silver. But yet, other countries, yes, we always come back again on the money thing. I will talk about the money, and it's about the money. But we have ways to make those money. With those 2 athletes from the World Championship, you could have easily made about $50,000, easy, by having T-shirts and pens and even a plate, and have this thing, because people will want this in their house. People want to put us up the same thing as they have a Grenada flag or something Grenada in their house. People will want those things to remember who we are. Remember the athletes who have done great to put us out on the map and to put us out there. And it's time for us to come out from that shell that we're in and start thinking beyond the box. We're still thinking in that small box. We want results doing the same thing we did 20 years ago. We want results doing the same thing we did 50 years ago. We want results, and time have changed. It's no longer the same no more. People don't run with no shoes no more. That's what in the old days, that's what we used to do growing up. You run in, no shoes. Now there's thing called come from shoes, and then there's spikes. We have to change with the times. We have to change with how we do things, and that's what's happening. So it's important to know that we don't have a secretary or an office where someone could go in and say, hey, can I get this, or can I do this, or can I, it's and we have this national stadium right there. We could have an office right there for them. The office could be right in the national stadium. It doesn't have to be up in the ministry. It could be right there in the track and field stadium. An office could be right there for them. It could be a permanent office, and you have people with mindset to say, how can we fundraise? How can we fundraise? How can we do these things? And that needs to change. So if the people who are there don't have the ability to think within that box or think about that, then it's time for them to go. We keep saying that. It's time for them to leave.
Well, at the same breath, I want to also encourage, and that might be a challenge for even the folks in the diaspora who support their various institutions back home, old boys, old girls. It's something that I discussed with some principals about 2 years ago, but then COVID came knocking, and it was sort of dashed. To give an exposure to the athletes at meets in the United States, and principally referring to the Penn Relays for one. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Penn Relays, because we have the Texas Relays, etc. And I said the Penn Relays because there's a close network and networking between folks in Grenada and folks on the East Coast, especially New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, those sort of areas. So it's easier. And probably the various schools, whether it's McDonald College, PBC, SAS, GBSS, Anglican High School, just name it, Bishop's College, Hillsborough Secondary School, they can look at participating in the Penn Relays. And when I say Penn Relays, and we know now that Penn Relays is not just relays. There are individual events, especially in the field events. So you may have an athlete who, in the javelin, the shot put, the discus in particular, who can participate in the Penn Relays. Okay. Now, and I'm saying that in the context of giving your athletes additional exposure, because coming out of Intercall, we know already that there's few events available locally for our athletes to compete in. And if for some reason they have not been able to make, let's say, the character team, and we know year after year we always hear about athletes who should have been on the team, not selected on the team, they have not been selected because there are no funds available and they can only go with X amount, all these sort of things. But now is the opportunity where schools can start looking and reaching out to the alumni associations in North America for assistance and saying, hey, we have at least 2 or 3 athletes that we can shortlist now to participate in the Penn Relays, but we may need some assistance. And you start discussing that, right? And as indicated, it doesn't necessarily have to be a relay team. Now, the last school which participated in the Penn Relays some years ago was Westerhall Secondary School in the relays. But as we see, even this year at the Penn Relays, we had a couple of Grenadians who participated in the Penn Relays in individual events, albeit they were representing their schools in Jamaica. Yep. So there is an opportunity for our athletes in Grenada, I should say, to participate in the pen relays, getting that level of exposure. Okay. Yeah. And it's all about doing it, starting the process now and not waiting, Rudian, until January or February and start thinking about having an athlete participate. By the way, and the school should have an idea of these athletes now, because we're not talking about a 1 year, a first year student, for example, because obviously you don't know the exploits of that first year student. We're talking about athletes who have been there probably 2 or 3 years, a senior athlete, etc., who you know definitely, that athlete has the potential,
the potential,
and the talent, and things like that. So, but these are just ideas. But again, we are trying to get those folks to think outside the box and don't wait until a month or two before the event and then trying to see how you can get assistance, and then you have to dash it because you realize that no one is available to help. It's too late. Now is the time. But I have 2 athletes, 3 athletes that I have shortlisted. We may need assistance. One may probably need a visa. All may need a visa. All of them have a visa already. And all we need is to start organizing for the airfare to Philadelphia or probably to New York. And when as a lot of Jamaican athletes, they travel to New York, and then from New York, they go over to Pennsylvania. They make arrangements. Make arrangements from New York to Pennsylvania. So all these things are things that we can think about. Go ahead.
No, and that's not only for, it's also a plan that schools can have when they start the year. You could say the plan is, guys, we would like to take a small team to pen relays. Now, if it works out, it works out. But if you start the planning from August or from September when school just started, and you find ways to fundraise, from then you identify those athletes. They might have an idea. You work out the visa possibility. If you start the process early, not wait till January come when you start in sports. If you start it early, because by January, you might be able to have the flight taken care of already for those athletes from fundraising. Because there might be so many little things happening that's going on around. You could do bake sale in school. You could do, I'm just saying, little things can be done in school and then fundraise. And then you have those former, the former students who is, who can also look into support, also look into help. That could also say, hey, you can come to New York. I have a basement. They can stay in my basement for the 2 days. Or they'll come to New York. I'll put them up in a hotel. Some hotels is not even expensive. Some hotels is $39 a night, $49 a night, $59 a night, right? All this stuff can happen. But it has to be a plan from early.
A good point you made there is that I recall when Westerhall Secondary School traveled to the pen relays, our good friend Kent Simon hosted these athletes at his home in Brooklyn, because they came to New York and they hosted them in Brooklyn, got some meets for them in Staten Island. In fact, I assisted him in terms of transporting to go to the meets, got some in Queens, because it was, I'm telling you, that year it was cold. So he even got gear for them to warm themselves up and things like that. So, and got them to Pennsylvania, for the meet. They came up, I think it was a week before or so, get themselves acclimatized. In fact, some of them were traveling for the very first time. Very first time they were traveling, and then it was cold as well. So they came up, acclimatized themselves and things like that. Some people wonder why it is that the Jamaicans always come up, and even in the cold weather they dominate, and things like that. It's all about acclimatizing. But
Michael,
Edwin, just before you go, Edwin Sam from New Jersey is saying hello to you, Rudian. And he's also saying that Mr. B, your point is very valid. I am always surprised that I don't see representation from Grenada at the pen relays.
And not only at the pen relays, also the Indo meets. We have Indo meets, right? That if you have a program that, if you find and that's how it comes with coaching, right? You find a coach. I'm coach. I haven't stopped coaching. actually give them a break because of the pandemic stuff. I've been starting from July and I haven't started yet. They started school and we're going right through still, right? So right now we're going until back to December, back to August of next year of training and competing. There's indoor meets. So if you know an athlete and you keep training from September, come down, then you go to the New Balance meet. There's so much indoor meets they can come in and run for the first time in that indoor facility that they never done before. So that's
Well,
also
and
an option, right?
yeah, it's all about
Yeah,
planning. Well,
planning. Yeah,
the advantage our folks in the Bahamas they do have because of the proximity.
yeah,
They compete in Florida, for example, as if
yeah,
someone competed from leaving Grenville and going to Las Vegas,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because sometimes it's less than
It's right there.
$100, a
Yeah,
flight
our flight
and
is
things like that. So
$100 or
yeah,
something.
so
Yeah,
they go. I
yeah,
know of high school
yeah,
athletes that from the schools rather in the Bahamas
yeah.
that go to Florida and compete on weekends and things like that.
Well,
So and
when I take a
yeah,
team to
yeah,
Disney to compete in a high school meet in Disney, and the Bahamas had a school
yeah.
a team that
So
was there.
and I know the limitations when it comes to Grenada and
Yeah,
probably other countries in the Southern Caribbean
in
in
the Southern
particular.
Caribbean. Yeah,
Jamaica has a little advantage, even not much as the Bahamas. The Bahamas is,
sure.
and then when you look at the Bahamas in terms of the currency 1 to 1. So one Bahamas dollar is one US dollar. These sort
Yeah,
of things like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
so it has a value in terms of that. Um, and Jamaica is even closer, than probably some of the other islands, like, well, not probably, but like Grenada in the Southern Caribbean, Trinidad, Barbados, St. Lucia. So we are a little at disadvantage when it comes to participating, and then we have to rely on air transportation and all these sort of things.
Yeah.
But again,
And,
I know that it has to do with planning. It
yeah,
has sitting down
and
and
Michael,
planning.
I not only plan because we're looking for long term. Because then, you could say, okay, we have a small team could go to St. Vincent. Oh, but I remember when I was in McGill College, we went to Trinidad for a few days. My first time, actually, that was my first time flying out of Grenada, and we went to Trinidad. My first time running on the indoor track, and the first time I actually run on the 21 point, like all of the stuff was the first time for me, right? And that was good. So you're not only going to the United States, you can go in other islands in the Caribbean for 2 days or 3 days. But the stuff has to be planned in advance, and it's for the long term. And most of the schools can have that. They could also have that there. That in years to come, whoever take over could continue on that process, continue on that. And but it also goes with coaching. Also, don't wait till track season to coming about for you to start. Okay, guys, it's time to go do track. Serious people. And one other thing, by our athletes getting to go out there, it exposed them to international coaches and schools, especially in the Penn relays, because the scouts are there to watching those high school athletes, and you see they get a card from them, and they get a package to saying this is what my school is like. We like to introduce those things is good for them. And it make them hungry for sports. It make them hungry for track and field. They go back home and say, listen, I want to go back again next year. It make them hungry, but we have to give them the opportunity to get hungry. We have to give them the opportunity to go there, just like go to the World Championship or the Olympic Games. When we talk about the Olympic Games, we had a conversation. There's only 3 medals. And there's almost 70 athletes in the 100 meters alone. 3 medals.
Right.
So athletes are there, and they qualify to get there. But it's only 3 medals in the end. But guess what? If somebody comes 18th based on the numbers in terms of ranking, then the next time they can say, I'm going to come 10th. Maybe the next time, but they're going back and they're working hard. They're working hard. They say, I want to go back again because the experience was good. I want to go back and do better. So, and some of them get there and do personal best, because the level rise up for them now. So it's time for us, Grenada, to give our athletes who identify themselves as athletes the opportunity to showcase what the talent that they have. But when we don't do that, we are losing our athletes. Michael, like I said, I keep saying it again, intercall haven't been done properly for past 5 or 6 years, properly. So we lose those athletes for so long. Some of them just wash away. We lost those athletes. You understand?
Well,
So
just to let you know that, so it was actually in 2019. You know, one of the things I do like is that, you know, I can always go back and check.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So it was 2019. I reached out to a host of principals in Grenada. In fact, most of the principals of secondary schools in Grenada. And to be honest, as a form of disclosure, and I will say it here, the only principals that responded, well, acknowledged and responded, were the principals of McDonald College, SAS, and PBC. I've just checked it today. That the same thing what I'll be discussing there was an idea, you know, that
Yeah.
said, hey, listen, and that was 2019, but looking forward to 2020. It wasn't 2019 for 2019. It was actually 2019 and was looking forward to 2020 because I do have, you know, I like to, it was, as a matter of fact, it was June of 2019 and telling them, hey, let's start looking at 2020. Yeah, it was pandemic and thing in 2020, blah, blah, blah. But I'm saying only principals that acknowledged and responded were the principals of the McDonald College, the St. Andrews Anglican Secondary School, SAS. I want to say it, not just SAS, so people understand what I'm saying, and the Presentation Brothers College. Only schools. The principals responded and say, hey, good idea. We like to work on it. But again, not taking anything away from it. We know we went into the pandemic, etc., etc. So I'm hoping even September of 2022, we can raise it again and hope for 2023 that we can see some level of representation, giving those athletes the opportunity. We know the issue has to do with finance, etc., etc. But you have no excuse if you start planning early. And if others see that you're making an effort, and again, I'm saying, you can reach out to your alumni association, and I'm certain they will really go out to assist. And you're making that effort, and people see that you're making the effort, they'll want to assist because they, you know, a lot of folks head off to Penn Relays and support schools from Jamaica, etc. Grenadians I'm talking about. Support schools from Jamaica. They would like to support, not just schools from, they would like to support Grenadians. You understand what I'm saying? It's not necessarily that you want to go there and support a SAS or a McDonald College, you know, but you want to support your Grenadian athletes. Okay. But
I know people. I know people here. I know people here go support their school. If Jamaican people leave here and go to Penn Relays to support the school.
But listen, most of
people
here
and go down to national champs in Jamaica.
They will tell you that most of the supporters, one, who go to the Penn Relays are Jamaicans or Jamaican descent, whatever. Some of them born in the US, but of Jamaican descent, heritage. They go there to support.
Yeah.
And a lot of the support are people outside of Philadelphia. They come from Boston, you know, Atlanta. Some of them drive cross country just to support. And some of them not necessarily supporting a particular school from Jamaica. They're supporting Jamaican athletes.
Well, let me give one example again.
Important thing.
Let me give one example. When Grenada was playing in soccer in Houston, the support of Grenadians who travel across the United States to go, you know, it was mind-blowing to see how many Grenadians that was there supporting Grenada. You know, so we support each other as long as we know. We support each other.
Because I recall in when Grenada started competing in the, you know, that was the World Cup qualifier in Ohio. And I was traveling with the Grenada team at the time. And the number of people who traveled out of New York drove, by the way, from New York, the New York area. They drove from New York to Ohio just to see the Grenada team play. You know, things like that. So it's all about planning, and I'm hoping I probably try to reach out to those principals again, remind them, probably just forward the same email from 3 years ago, just reminding them that, hey, this is still something that you can look at and, see if you were willing to assist your athletes, get them the opportunity, but you have to make that effort. And I'm certain if you try to make the effort, there will be those who will be willing to assist. And you never know, we always see how the Jamaican athletes capitalize on those scholarships available and things like that. So, and mind you, a lot of those things come from the experience they get, or the exposure rather they get from things like the Penn relays, the Texas relays, etc. Things like that. So one final thing I want to let you know about is that hoping to have, again, I've reached out to those organizers of the Intercall. They acknowledge, but they haven't given an indication as to when they will appear on the program. We want to talk about Intercall 2023. Also, most likely, I'll have Mr. Kent Simon. Kent Simon has been a contributor to a number of schools, especially he lives in the diaspora, but schools in Grenada. And he has been a driving force in trying to get some of our athletes to schools in Jamaica, for example, high schools in Jamaica and things like that. So he works along with a number of schools in Jamaica as well, and high schools. Because what we are talking about in terms of memorabilia and fundraising activities and things, that's big on the Jamaica side. Okay, and those schools in Jamaica, they're big on that. They have well-established alumni associations and things that do put a lot of funds into assisting them and things like that. So we're hoping to have Mr. Kent Simon, who will talk to us about that, as well as the organizers of Intercall. We're hoping to have them so that they can give us an indication of what's in store for Intercall 2023. Now that everything seems to be back on stream with the teachers, etc., we want to know what's in store, and hoping that Intercall 2023 could be big and something we can probably discuss with them as well in terms of what we have been discussing there, the whole issue of fundraising, getting the athletes to participate in pen relays and other international events, giving them that sort of exposure. Okay?
And there is a lot of ways to fundraise, and we are out here in the diaspora. We could say, yes, the opportunity is here, but even being at home, there's lots of ways, because you could see. I remember when McDonald College had their T-shirts, because different colors because of the houses. Them thing was sold out. Mm-hmm. It was sold out. I mean, I was out here and I was calling to get my color. And it was sold out. Listen, imagine if our school does it.
Well, here. When I was the president of the alumni association, the GBSS Alumni Association, we used to have our annual dinner and dance, and it used to be a sold out event.
Sold out.
Well supported. Okay, and I see no reason why. You can have that. Just last week, for example, you had the Prime Minister, albeit the newly elected Prime Minister, and $200 I guess, and it was a sold out event. It was a sold out event. The diaspora, they do come out and support, and once they know it's for a worthy cause, and they come out to support, they look for those kind of activities, I mean,
I tried to when I tried to get in, they told me so that I was going to drive them to New York. They told me it was sold out.
They do look for these sort of events to support, and it's sometimes an opportunity for them to socialize, because how it is in the metro areas in North America. These are the sort of things you get to socialize. So they do come out and support, and I'm saying again, the schools in Grenada, it's not that the alumni here will just decide to do this without working along with it. The schools have to show an interest, They have to say what it is. They have to show an interest. It's not just, we'll have something there and send you money and, these sort of things like that. So, and I keep saying that should not be the idea.
That shouldn't be.
Let us know what it is you have in mind. Let us see how we can work together. What is your plan?
What is
or
your
what are
plan?
your plans? Okay,
Yeah,
what you hoping to achieve? Let us know what it is you have in store for 2023,
yeah.
and let's see how we can work along to assist in whatever area. We may not be able to do everything, but there may be some we may be able to meet you halfway, work
And
along with, and do
and we
things.
always have so many different people listening to our show, Michael, that to your show, that you never know who is listening on that day. You never know who decide to, to happen to see it on Facebook, somebody sharing it,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
tune in, and
Mhm.
it's like, whoa, what's this? And next thing you know, you have a sponsor coming from somebody you never even expected, right? So
Yeah,
it's so many things that can be done, right? And we out here in the diaspora, we are willing to help and support because we want to see our country grow. We want to see our people do better. We want to see our people prosper. We want to see our athletes be fairly treated. And that's what we want. And that's all we
right.
ask to do. So
Mhm.
going back to the beginning, where we started, what do we want to see, or where do we want to see Grenada tomorrow?
Mhm. Yeah.
Where do we want to see Grenada tomorrow? So
Mhm. Kyron, good afternoon to you. Kyron is saying we can start planning and preparing our athletes for these opportunities like the pen relays through a seek and development program. This is needed across all sporting disciplines. And good afternoon to you, Kyron. And while Kyron is making that point, I wanted to, Kyron, thanks for the information. The Callan Batiste Foundation Incorporated presents the 4th annual Callan Batiste Memorial Football match that will be played at the Roy St. John playing field in Tantine on Saturday, October 4th. Well, Saturday, October the 8th, rather, at 4 p.m. in the afternoon is October 8th. So that, remember, that's the Callan Batiste Memorial Football game. It will be the Callan Batiste Presidency 11 versus the ex-nationals. As you know, Callan Batiste, a former Grenada national goalkeeper, and he passed away some years ago. And in his honor and in his memory, in his legacy, there is the Callan Batiste Foundation, and it's something that they have every year, but because of the pandemic, they hadn't had it. But it's good to see that come this year, it is back. It is for Saturday, October 8th, 4 o'clock in the afternoon in Tantine. It's the Callan Batiste President's 11 versus ex-nationals. And, thank you very much, Kyron, for that, keeping your brother
but
legacy alive.
and as much, Callan, your ideas is great. If I'm mistaken, Michael, the pen release is a school event, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a
Well,
club, it's not a
there's
country,
no, there's an
it's a
elite.
school,
There's
right?
a no,
So yeah,
no. There is an elite section
okay,
because remember, some years ago, Grenada had a team when Kirani and Rondell and them ran the 4 by
right, yeah,
4. So
yeah,
there's the elite USA versus the rest of the world. There's that
yes,
elite section there.
yeah.
That they
So
normally will
so
have.
yeah,
And
but so either we send in an elite team, or everything else has to be school approved because
yeah,
you're
well,
representing your school. So uh, um, so we're trying to get more the school to get involved in trying to getting the athletes to go there, those who they could identify, more than doing a development in a sense way to say we have a development program, we can send these people. The school have to give the approval. You don't work without the school approval, right? So
yeah, but
yeah,
again,
yeah.
when you register, you're registering as a
On the
school when
school,
it
yeah,
comes to that.
yeah.
Outside of that, it will be the association.
And the association,
For
yeah,
example, you have a relay team that you want to qualify, whatever, you have to do
yeah.
that through the
So you have to go through
that
Grenada now. Now you have to
yeah,
be
that's the
through,
association. But
yeah, the association.
when it comes to participating with the schools, it
You have to
must
be
be
the
done
school
through the
approval, yeah.
school.
And
The
athletes,
schools, the
yeah,
schools will have a code. When they register, they
yeah,
will get a code, and all these they get all the information
yeah.
and things like that. So
And
so
I only say, that because I know how serious it is. We have athletes who go and compete without school approval, and they get slashed for competing for the rest of the year. It has to get
yeah.
approved for the school, especially now. It's so hard to get a team to travel outside of Canada now based on all the rules, and especially with the pandemic stuff. The school board have to give the approval now. We cannot do nothing without the school board approval now.
Mhm.
So we usually take a team to Rochester for cross country. We can't do that this year because the school board said no. So it's really it's tough, you know. So
Yeah. All
yeah,
right. Well, I want to thank you once again, Rudian, for
most
being
definitely.
on the program. It's always a pleasure when we discuss issues regarding sports. Hopefully, I'm really hoping that um, for our next program, which actually will be the 1st of October, hey, we're getting towards the end. This is the home stretch, eh? This is the home stretch.
I
As they
know,
say,
I know.
about earlier in the week, you could have been outside, short sleeve. Within the last day or two, we had to start putting on,
I know, and we
long
and,
sleeve.
and,
It's
and our our
and
West Coast get punked with the hurricane, and
yeah,
say, I'm kind of not disappointed. I'll say it's time that somewhere else get slashed with the hurricane than the Caribbean,
mhm,
So it's
yeah,
Newfoundland and those areas have it really bad out there, and but we just pray for them, and we
mhm.
know it's hurricane season, and we're no longer in summer season no more. We're going right into getting out the sweaters now. That's
Yeah.
that's what it is.
I mean, 2023 went by so quickly. I
Ah,
mean,
tell me
we
about it, man.
we into October. We can say
Yeah,
we into October, and when you talk about October, you start hearing about Christmas carols and
yeah.
well,
Well, right
you know,
after, well,
yeah,
for
it's
us, our
Christmas,
Thanksgiving is next month. So for us,
yeah,
it's right after Thanksgiving. Your Thanksgiving
yeah,
is the month after. Like
yeah,
right
it's
after
November,
Thanksgiving, we
yeah,
we, we that's it.
yeah.
It's over.
Well,
You know?
well, just
Yeah.
before I end and I talk about that, let me give you a joke with so some years ago, that's I mean quite a while. That's when I was back in radio in Grenada. That's more than 20 years now. We have some guys that on the FM station, they used to have a lot of fun. FM was just fun. And let me tell you something. I it was about a week or two after Carnival. Those guys start playing Christmas Carol. They start playing Parang. I think it was like from Carnival into
Too far.
Christmas. And yeah, and I was like, I remember in the newsroom and I was monitoring and I was like, hey, what's going on there? And I called the guy, and you know what's playing there? He said, yeah, them guys just having fun, you know what I mean?
Well,
Yeah.
if you, I don't know if
They
you've
were
been to
mixing, parang. I'm
Parang,
telling
yeah.
you. Yeah, they
I
were
don't know if you've
mixing
been to.
parang
I don't know
about 2 weeks
if
after
you
Carnival.
if you've been into your Costco. And go to Costco, yeah, Christmas stuff is out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Christmas stuff is out.
yeah.
Right? So they
So
have the Christmas already.
yeah,
So
it is. It is. It just shows you how
yeah,
time flies and the
time's
time
flying.
we win twice.
Yeah,
And that's why we keep saying about the planning and having
the
things and
planning
having
is
timelines with your planning too, eh?
yeah.
Because you don't just plan, but you have timelines. So you
You
want
have a
to
timeline
do
with it.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah, you want to do this and that by a certain time to accomplish this and that by a certain time. If you don't accomplish it, what is plan B, etc., etc. Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. Thank you very much once again, Rudian.
Thanks again.
Always
Thanks
a
for having
pleasure.
me, and to
Yeah.
your listeners.
Mhm.
It is always a pleasure, and we our goal is to better for our athletes.
Yeah. Thank you
That's what
very
it is.
much.
All right.
Yeah, I
Thanks again.
appreciate it. Yeah, okay then. Folks, so that's Rudian Sylvan live in Toronto. Um, as per usual, um, always giving us his insights into what's taking place. Yeah, I appreciate Chiron. Certainly, it's a pleasure. Yeah, right. Woo, there was so much going on the other side there in terms of my phone with messages. I'll have to attend to it after, but quite a bit. What again? Yeah. So, folks, hopefully for the coming week, remember there is cricket. Yeah, there is cricket in Grenada starting on Thursday. Grenada will be playing St. Lucia, and then St. Vincent and the Grenadines versus Dominica at Lassages. The Grenada St. Lucia game is scheduled for Progress Park. 50 overs. If you have the time, and starts at 9:30 in the morning. If you do have the time, go out and support our local cricketers. Most of our top cricketers will be in action. Yeah, I think the only person name I didn't see on that would have been Preston McSween, but all our local cricketers in action. So do go out and support our young local cricketers. Okay, I'm making that appeal to you. Support. What again happening? That's cricket. By the way, congratulations to Bunny Wilson on his election to the presidency of the Grenada Olympic Committee, even though by acclamation he was the only candidate up for election, and he is now the elected president of the Grenada Olympic Committee. Congratulations to you, Bernard Bunny Williams, or former boxer, and he's now the president of the Grenada Olympic Committee. So that's another thing I want to say too. And again, we'll have Bunny in a future program, but I spoke to him already, giving him some time to get his feet wet and things like that. So, and we'll, and then meet with his directors and the affiliates, that's the council, and then we'll invite him to the program, and then he will probably give us an insight into what's happening at the Grenada Olympic Committee level. Okay. So once again, thank you very much. Always a pleasure for you being with us. Invitation is yours to join us come next Saturday, God's willing. Hopefully we have another program. I'm still in New York. Hopefully I'm still in New York. Sometimes they have me traveling on a Saturday. So let's see what will happen. But other than that, please continue to support our sportsmen and sportswomen wherever they are, and hope to see you around and to chat with you on another program, God's willing, next week. Until then, do have a pleasant weekend and be safe.